awesome. Hard to choose which one you're going to go for. I am absolutely delighted to now introduce our first ever full student panel. Our students have been selected from schools around Gloucestershire and they are going to be talking about the privacy paradox. I'm delighted to introduce our host for this session, Nicola Whiting, MBE, who is the co-owner of Titania Group and also a huge advocate of diversity and inclusion, not only in the industry, but also further afield. Nicola, over to you to introduce the panel.
And I'm really looking forward to this session too, because I know that the students have absolutely tons to say that's really informative and useful. So if I could introduce the panel. We have Amelia, we have James, we have Tamzin, we have Sam, and we have Abby. And I'd like to start off with a question straight away to Amelia, which is, privacy loss has been compared to climate change because it affects us all and it happens gradually and degrades our societies. So, Amelia, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's a very topical comparison because climate change can happen to anyone, anywhere in the world, a bit like privacy loss, because it doesn't matter who you are or where you are, you could still be a victim of a security breach and end up losing your privacy.
Absolutely, it's completely universal. In terms of trends, Tamzin, what trends have you seen in data privacy and data breaches over the last few years?
So throughout the last decade or so, I think we're seeing that data breaches are becoming a lot bigger and a lot more complex than we're used to. So a lot of the recent data breaches are containing a lot more information on the users than traditionally we would expect. We not only get the general data, but heuristical data, which provides links between different users and even non-users of the apps. This sets a really worrying precedent about how much of our data we're putting out there compared to how much data is being put out by the people that are closest to us, like our friends or our family.
Wow, the interconnectivity of data and that risk. So what steps have, Abby, what steps have you seen organisations take in helping to protect our data?
We've seen implementations of data security plans consisting of firewalls, encryption, and keeping some data off the network. And a balance of physical, digital, and human security must be maintained by these organisations in order to well-roundedly protect our data. And vigilance is one step that I've seen, and being attentive is vital to stay on top of cybercriminals.
I love that interconnectivity between the people and the technology as well. I think that is very on point for where CISOs are looking at the moment. And James, what do you think companies should do to protect our data?
I think companies should have many layers of protection, whether it be something to do with finger ID, face ID, or even voice, just so that it's harder for anyone to try and get your data.
Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. And Sam, what future technologies do you think will have the biggest impact in data security?
I think that quantum computers, although quite far off, are going to have the biggest impact in the future. They pose a serious threat to our security due to their potential to break many of the most commonly used encryption methods. Due to this, post-quantum cryptography is already being developed, although I think it still has a long way to go.
It's always that race, isn't it, between how strong the encryption is and how much power can be put towards it. Thank you. Going back to Tamzin now, what ideas do you have for improving people's understanding and awareness around data privacy?
So I think we really need to work on making things like data understandable on a non-technical level. There's this idea that as technology gets more implemented in our daily lives, the base knowledge level of technical subjects will raise with it, but I'm not certain that's the case. If you want to make people aware of their data and how to keep it safe, we have to start explaining it in ways that they can understand. Water takes the path of least resistance, and that's the approach we need to consider when teaching people about their data privacy.
I so completely agree with that point. If we don't use their language, then it just makes it impossible for people to follow, doesn't it? And if you use that analogy, I suppose as engines in cars got more complex, and we didn't have people lining up and going, I need to understand the engine of my car. You just trust somebody else to take care of it for you. So I absolutely agree. We needed to bring it to the people. Thank you. James, if you could wave a magic wand, what would you want to happen with people's privacy?
I'd want privacy to be something that people don't have to worry about and something that's easier for people to understand or set up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'd all like to not have to worry about our privacy and have something or somebody else be able to support that. So yes. And Abby, what question would you ask our entire community about privacy?
I would ask, does your password contain your pet's name? Social media makes it so easy to find out personal information about other people, and having an easy-to-guess password is just not advisable, really, from my perspective. And knowledge is power in the sense that if the community can learn about these potential privacy threats, then they can therefore take the steps to prevent these from happening again in the future.
It's amazing how it's the basics, isn't it, that trip so many people up. And actually, I did love one of the previous sessions where a password manager was recommended, because I think everybody can download one of those, and they're either free or so low cost, it makes sense. So, Amelia, do you think we can live in a world where data is totally secure?
No, I believe data is never truly secure because there's vulnerabilities within any system. I think the best that we can look for is that these vulnerabilities are maintained and found before a hacker is, so we can stay one step ahead. As Bruce and I would say, security is a process, not a product.
And what about yourself, Sam? Do you think we can live in a world where our data is totally secure?
Well, I agree with Amelia. I don't think we can. I think data security is ever evolving. I think that makes it quite difficult to live in a data secure world.
I would completely agree. So I'd love to hear from each of you what you'd like to do in the future. So if we could just go around the floor with Amelia first.
I'd like to go on to my level 6 topic degree at Gloucestershire College and then go on for a career in cybersecurity.
And Tamzin?
I'm looking forward to...
Sorry. Yeah, let's go to James with that next. Sorry, James.
I would like... I've forgotten the question now.
What would you like to do next in the future?
I'd like to develop or improve security as a whole and just kind of give everyone access to protection.
I love that vision. And Tamzin?
Well, I'm looking forward to completing my undergraduate degree, and then I'm going to spend all of my very limited free time making free resources and volunteering to help not only students but non-technological people find their places in cyber.
I love giving back into the community. It's so valuable. Thank you. And Sam?
At the moment, I'm looking for some work experience, if anyone wants to offer me some. But in the future, I'd like to do a degree in computer science before pursuing a career in the field.
Well, there's a lot of watchers on this call, so they know where to get in touch. So great shout out there. And finally, Abby.
I'm currently looking for a cybersecurity apprenticeship alongside training my event horses.
Fantastic. So again, 2 people with a shout out there, so feel free to get in touch. And thank you so much, everybody. Your answers were really informative. And you know, if I'd have known as much about cybersecurity at your age as you do, I think our future workforce is something I'm looking forward to, very much so. So thank you, everybody, and thank you for tuning in and listening to these fantastic students.
Nicola,
and now
thank you
to Reid. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Nicola. That was so lovely and so intimate and really special. And those brave students coming on camera, live broadcast for the first time, they're going to have a great future. I was particularly interested in the quote from Bruce Schneier and, focusing on things like post-quantum cryptography. So the future is in their hands. Absolutely. Brilliant.